Imagine lying perfectly still inside a massive, humming medical scanner. You are a 40-year-old schoolteacher. 13 years ago, your 5-year-old daughter was killed in a terrible car accident. You survived, but you have been hollowed out, working day and night to outrun the silence in your house. Now, a doctor plays an audio recording that calmly describes the exact moments of the crash. Inside the scanner, your heart rate spikes, and your blood pressure skyrockets. But what the doctors see on the glowing screen of your brain scan is what changes our understanding of human suffering forever. A bright red spot lights up in the emotional center of your brain, the alarm system screaming that you are dying right now. But even more terrifying is the sudden, stark white spot on the left side of your brain. It is Broca's area, the physical center of human speech. And it has gone completely dark. It has shut down. You literally, biologically, have no words for what is happening to you. This is what Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, a pioneering psychiatrist and researcher, discovered after decades of working with trauma survivors. His groundbreaking work, The Body Keeps the Score, completely shattered how we view human pain. For the longest time, the medical world told us that psychological suffering was just a chemical imbalance in the brain, something to be medicated away, or a cognitive distortion, something you could just talk your way out of. But Dr. van der Kolk proved that severe pain, abuse, neglect, and trauma do not just live in your mind. They leave a physical imprint on your biology, rewiring your nervous system, changing how your brain filters reality, and embedding themselves into the very muscles and organs of your body. This isn't a book just for combat veterans or survivors of unthinkable disasters. It is for the person who looks successful on paper but feels completely dead inside. It is for the person who blows up in rage at the people they love most and has no idea why. It is for anyone who feels like they are watching their own life through a glass wall, disconnected from their own skin, wondering why they keep repeating the exact same destructive patterns. If you have ever felt like you are fighting an invisible war inside your own body, this is for you. To understand why you feel so stuck, you first have to understand that trauma is not just a bad memory, but a fundamental physical reorganization of how your brain perceives the world. Deep inside your brain, you have a smoke detector called the amygdala. Its only job is to figure out if you are safe or if you are about to die, and it does this in milliseconds, long before your conscious mind has any idea what is going on. Directly above your eyes is your watchtower, the medial prefrontal cortex. Its job is to look at the smoke detector and say, "Calm down, that is not a tiger, that is just a shadow," or "That is not a fire, you just burned the toast." But when you undergo an experience of inescapable shock, when you are trapped, terrified, and helpless, that delicate balance is destroyed. Let me tell you about Stan and Ute, a married couple who were driving to a business meeting when they hit a wall of dense fog and became trapped in car number 13 of an 87-car pileup. They sat helplessly as an 18-wheeler flew over them. Cars smashed into them, and they watched a girl burn to death in a nearby vehicle. 3 months later, they went to a psychiatrist because they couldn't sleep, couldn't stop drinking wine to numb the fear, and felt like they were going to die at any moment. The doctor put Stan into an fMRI scanner and played a tape of the sounds of the crash. Instantly, Stan's smoke detector lit up like a blazing fire. His brain didn't know it was a recording. His heart raced, he started sweating, his blood pressure surged. His smoke detector was screaming, but his watchtower was completely offline. Even worse, the part of the brain that tells you the time, the part that says that was then, and this is now, was completely deactivated. Stan wasn't remembering the crash. He was reliving it. Biologically, the passage of time had been erased. Ute sat in the exact same car, but when they scanned her brain and played the same tape, almost every single area of her brain went entirely dark. Her heart didn't race. When asked how she felt, she said, "I felt nothing." To survive the terror, her brain had pulled the ultimate emergency brake. She dissociated, making herself completely disappear. This is the first profound realization you need to hold on to. If you fly into a panic at a minor criticism, or if you completely freeze and go numb during an argument, you are not crazy. You are not broken. You are dealing with a brain that is literally stuck in a past reality. Your body continues to defend against a threat that belongs to the past, and it is using every ounce of your energy to do it. You aren't lacking willpower. You are dealing with a nervous system that has been rewired for a war that has already ended. Because trauma fundamentally rewires the brain, the way we have been told to heal from it is often completely wrong. We are told to just talk about it. But when you are truly overwhelmed, your brain literally shuts down the physical capacity for speech. All trauma is preverbal. When you are terrified, the rational, storytelling part of your brain shuts down, and the sensory, emotional brain takes over. Trauma is not stored as a neat story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. It is stored as fragmented, raw sensory imprints. The smell of alcohol on someone's breath, a flash of a green shirt, a crushing pain in your chest, a paralyzing dread. Dr. Kolk worked with a brilliant, athletic lawyer named Tom, a Vietnam veteran who had survived a horrific ambush in a rice paddy that killed his entire platoon, including his best friend. On the outside, Tom came home, went to law school, married his high school sweetheart, and had 2 sons. On the inside, he was a monster. He couldn't feel any affection for his wife. The sound of his children playing made him so agitated he had to run out of the house. He stayed up all night drinking to avoid the nightmares. When he finally went to therapy, the doctor gave him medication to stop the nightmares. But when Tom came back, he admitted he hadn't taken a single pill. He said, "If I take the pills and the nightmares go away, I will have abandoned my friends, and their deaths will have been in vain. I need to be a living memorial to my friends who died in Vietnam." Tom was stuck in an impossible trap. He couldn't talk his way out of it because the rational part of his brain couldn't touch the emotional truth of his loyalty to his dead friends. The trauma had cut him off from language based on common experience. This is why people who have been through hell often give you a blank stare or tell a highly rehearsed, emotionless cover story. When words fail, the body keeps the score. The memory stays locked in the muscles, the gut, the immune system. You cannot logic your way out of a trauma that lives in your viscera. This is the tragic aha moment for so many of us. You can spend 10 years in talk therapy analyzing your childhood, perfectly understanding why your parents were the way they were, and still find your chest caving in with panic every time your partner raises their voice. Understanding why you feel a certain way does not change how you feel. This brings us to a dark, unsettling truth about the aftermath of trauma. Traumatized people often find themselves compulsively drawn back to the very situations that destroyed them. You might look at someone and think, why do they keep going back to that abusive relationship? Why do they keep seeking out dangerous situations? Take the story of Julia, a girl who was brutally raped at gunpoint at age 16. Soon after, she got involved with a violent pimp who prostituted and beat her. Eventually, her grandparents rescued her and sent her to an intense, expensive rehab program. She got clean. She enrolled in college. She started taking a sociology class. But soon, she found normal life intolerably boring. She dropped her normal boyfriend because he bored her to tears. She dropped out of her classes, went down to the subway, and picked up a drug addict who beat her and stalked her. She went right back into the fire. Why? Freud called it the compulsion to repeat, but modern neuroscience gives us a clearer, more heartbreaking answer. When you are terrified, your brain secretes massive amounts of endorphins, morphine-like chemicals that block pain. When the trauma becomes your normal, your body establishes a new chemical baseline. Activities that cause fear and pain become the only things that make you feel thrillingly alive. Ordinary life feels numb, empty, and dead. This loss of ordinary joy is tied to a loss of imagination. Dr. Kolk gave Rorschach inkblot tests to traumatized veterans. Where a normal person might see a butterfly or 2 people dancing, these men saw charred flesh, exploded bodies, or they saw absolutely nothing at all. Trauma kills the imagination, and imagination is absolutely critical to the quality of our lives. It is how we envision a better future, how we fall in love, how we create art. When you are compulsively pulled back into the past, you suffer a failure of imagination. Without imagination, there is no hope. You cannot envision a place to go. And so, unconsciously, you return to the only place where your body remembers feeling intense emotion, even if that emotion is sheer terror. To break this cycle, you have to look inside. But when you do, you will find that the mind is not a single, unified entity. We all have different parts inside us, and to survive trauma, some of those parts become monstrous protectors. If you want to heal, you have to stop hating the parts of yourself that you think are broken. Consider Peter, an incredibly successful oncologist. He was physically fit, arrogant, demanding, and brilliant. But his wife was about to divorce him because he was relentlessly critical, completely emotionally unavailable, and ruthlessly demeaning to everyone around him. When Peter finally came to therapy to save his marriage, Dr. Kolk didn't try to teach him communication skills. He asked Peter to close his eyes and look inside at that harsh, critical part of himself. He asked Peter what that critic was afraid would happen if it stopped judging everyone. Peter sat in silence for a long time. Then he whispered, "I would get hurt. If you criticize others, they don't dare to hurt you. If you are perfect, nobody can criticize you." When Peter was guided to look deeper, behind that massive, arrogant protector, he found a memory of a terrified 7-year-old boy. The boy was being viciously beaten by his father. And as Peter looked at that inner child, his first reaction was disgust. He hated that boy for being a weakling, for whining, for having no guts. But the truth was that little boy bore the entire burden of the trauma. He was the exiled part of Peter's soul. And the arrogant, cruel doctor was just a protector, a firefighter whose entire existence was dedicated to making sure Peter never felt that helpless again. This is the deepest realization you can have about your own mind. The parts of yourself that you hate the most, the eating disorder, the addiction, the sudden rages, the desperate clinginess, the complete emotional shutdown, were born out of survival. They were brilliant, desperate adaptations to keep you alive when you had no one to protect you. You do not heal by going to war with yourself. You heal by recognizing that these toxic behaviors were once your saviors. You heal by looking at the exhausted, terrified parts of your own soul, asking the fierce protectors to step back, and finally offering that exiled inner child the compassion and safety they were denied so long ago. So, how do we actually do this? How do we rewire a nervous system that is stuck in the past, without just relying on talk therapy or prescription drugs that merely numb the pain? Healing requires bottom-up regulation. You have to convince your physical body that it is safe right now. Here are 3 concrete, specific ways to start taking ownership of yourself this week. First, practice interoception by asking yourself 2 questions. Notice that and what happens next. Traumatized people are terrified of their own physical sensations. A tight chest feels like a heart attack. A pit in the stomach feels like impending doom. This week, when you feel a wave of anxiety, anger, or numbness, do not try to fix it. Do not try to analyze why your parents made you this way. Stop, pause, and locate the physical sensation in your body. Say to yourself, "My jaw is tight" or "My chest is heavy." Just observe it. Then ask, what happens next? Notice that sensations are temporary. They peak and they fall. If you change your posture, if you take a deep breath, the sensation shifts. You are teaching your brain that you can tolerate your own internal landscape without running away. Second, use your breath to control your brain's alarm system. This isn't just fluffy wellness advice. It is hard biology. When you inhale, you activate your sympathetic nervous system, the accelerator that speeds up your heart. When you exhale, you activate your parasympathetic nervous system, the brake that slows everything down. This week, when you feel triggered, do not try to talk yourself out of it. Instead, take a breath and focus all your attention on making your exhale noticeably longer than your inhale. Pause at the very end of the out-breath before drawing the next one. You are literally manually overriding your brain's fight-or-flight response through the vagus nerve in your chest. Third, find a way to move in synchrony with other people. Trauma leaves you feeling godforsaken and cut off from the human race. You cannot heal in total isolation, but you also might not be ready for deep, intimate conversations. That is okay. Find a communal rhythm. Sign up for a yoga class. Join a choir. Go to a martial arts studio. Take a kickboxing class, or try a local improv theater group. Moving your body in time with other bodies bypasses the broken language centers of the brain and taps straight into your primal need for connection. It signals to your nervous system that you belong to a tribe, that you are part of a rhythm larger than your own isolated fear. You are not permanently broken. Your body is simply carrying the heavy score of everything you survived, and through mindful breath, movement, and self-compassion, you can teach it that the war is finally over. If this raw look into the human mind sparked something real inside you today, hit subscribe to Page Portal and join us for more deep dives into the books that reflect the fragments of our own souls.